Another interesting feature that we should test is the booking. So let's click on book now, and we already saw how this works, but we're just going to do a quick recap. I'm going to put my name as test, my email as test@test.com. I'm going to pick some random date. So this allows us to book a table. We're going to click on reserve. You're going to get a message saying you're going to get an email if it's accepted. We're going to say thank you very much. That's great. And then we're going to be redirected to this page. So we're being redirected to confirmed.php. We're not at booking.php anymore. And again, you can see the information that we typed being populated in these input boxes. And you can see that it's just saying our booking is pending confirmation. And we can see the booking or the order ID. So this is a lot of information that can give us a lot of clues. So this tells me that something was submitted on a database and that's the order ID of it. All of these input boxes are being populated by values that we sent originally in the original form. So if we, for example, right click this and inspect the element, you will see we have an input box in here and its value is being set to test. So whatever we're putting in here is being reflected in the page somewhere. It is inside an input box, inside the value, but as we learned previously, if we manage to break out of this constraint, we're going to be able to inject HTML and JavaScript code in this page. So same goes for the email address, and also same goes for the date. So even though the date is not a normal input box where you can type anything in it, the date, as you can see, if I click it, I can't type anything, and I can only use it if I click in here and select an actual date. So it might seem like you can't really inject code in here, but in reality, once we intercept this with burp, we're going to be able to do anything we want. Because again, if we right click and inspect this element, you can see it's a normal input box and its value is being set to whatever value that is being set in here. So if we intercept the original request and change its value in burp to whatever we want, we're going to be able to inject normal text in here, and hopefully we'll be able to inject some JavaScript. So let's go back, close this, and let's go back to the original booking page. So we're clicking on book now. We're going to turn on our interceptor, and we're going to put any values. Actually, it really doesn't matter this time because we're going to be modifying it in burp. We're going to click on reserve, and as you can see, we have the post request being sent to this endpoint. You can see there is a parameter in here with a value saying no. So again, you should test this for a lot of vulnerabilities, and this is actually vulnerable to something. You can test it in your own time, but in my opinion, this is not a very common vulnerability, so I'm not going to waste time showing you what it is. But what's interesting is what we have in here in the bottom, which is the values that we set for the email, for the date, and for the username. So as we saw earlier, all of these values are being injected inside the value parameter for an input box. And therefore, to test for JavaScript injection, we're going to first of all close the value with a quote and close the input box with this sign, and then add our script. And we're going to do alert 2, and we're going to finish the script. Now, ideally, you'd want to test one parameter at a time to see how the website is behaving. But I'm actually just going to send it to the 3 parameters. And I do this every now and then when I'm testing really quickly. And then I would zoom in and test every single parameter on its own. And as we saw earlier, once you get some clues, you can go ahead and use the intruder with the payloads from the cheat sheet and build it up one element at a time, or one word at a time if you really want to say that, until you discover the vulnerability. But for now, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to do it this way. We're going to click on forward. Going to click on OK, and we're going to stop intercepting it because we don't want to do that. And perfect. As you can see, we are getting our code to be executed. So we have our JavaScript code injected in the page, and therefore we have discovered a reflected XSS vulnerability. Now, if I click on OK, as you can see now, I can see the JavaScript in here is actually being placed within the input box. So that means this input is not vulnerable because the web application knows that this is just part of the input. It is not code. Same goes for this one. It's being placed within the input. It knows that this is not code, it's part of the input. But in the date, we actually don't see anything in here. The script that we pasted is not actually being displayed in here. And if we right click and inspect the element, you will see we have the date that was selected. And then, because we closed the value and we opened up our own script, you can see our own script is being treated as code, as part of the page, and therefore it's being executed on the page. So there you go. The date parameter, even though it seems like you can't put any code or any text in it, once intercepted in burp, we're able to put anything and inject anything within it. And as you can see, the programmer probably filtered these inputs thinking that they can be manipulated and thinking that this one cannot be manipulated. But as you can see, we managed to inject code in it by simply intercepting the data in burp.